are prepped for that, because when you eat this, you will definitely feel a little bit of nap time coming on. If it's later in the afternoon or if it's in the evening, I promise you that's. All right, guys. So today we are going to make some Schezwan noodles and stir fry, and it's gonna call for pork. You can see here I have some other ingredients that I've started preparing already. You have some carrots. What I did with these is I didn't grate them. Basically sliced them pretty thin. I took each carrot, broke it down into eighths. So quarter it and then half each of those pieces. There's some scallion here. The greens are cut about a 1/4 inch, maybe even a 1/2 inch in some sections. And then I left about 1 inch on the white part of the scallion. Some garlic that's been cut into semi small pieces. I wouldn't say quite minced, more like diced. Think you could see some of this paste here. That's basically your choice of any type of base that's for traditionally Asian dishes. You know, you could buy it at the Asian store. Any paste that's going to be a little bit spicy is going to be good. And then we have this sauce here, which is really where I'm picking up. This has several things. It's going to have salt. It's going to have a little bit of water, soy glaze, sweet soy glaze, some stock concentrate, some peanut butter, some vinegar, some chili flakes. You can see them kind of floating in there. And what you want to do is you want to just use your whisk. You're not going to skip ahead. And depending on how cool your ingredients were before you started cooking, it could take a little bit longer if they're coming straight from the fridge. But the point here is put all the stuff in there, particularly the vinegar. Will help you dissolve the paste, will help you dissolve the peanut butter. It really, what you want to look for here is if you make a sauce that can pour rather easily out of the bowl, you can kind of expect that it's going to be able to pour rather easily into the dish or over the dish. We're going to be cooking into this sauce, so it's not really a dressing. You don't have to be too concerned about that. But you can see here the consistency is, it can pour, but it's a little thick. You can add some water if you like, and then you'll see in a few minutes as we start to cook with it. What's important here is that you mix it up really well. You can add a little water to, maybe it's your first time making this and you'll figure it out as you go, but you can add a little water if you want to make it a little bit more fluid. And then of course the pork, you can see here about 1 pound of ground pork, not sausage, just ground pork, lean beef. You can add some salt and pepper before you start cooking with it. It's typically the way to do it with turkey and with pork, so don't be afraid to do that. And again, you should be coming into ingredients from room temperature. Don't wait too long. A note about the peanut butter, you know, it's you can add sugar, you can add peanut butter, depending on which type of peanut butter you're getting. Could be already very sweet. And if somebody has a food allergy, be careful that you don't skip that part, that important part, because obviously this would be harmful. So if you want to replace the peanut butter, either because of food allergy or because maybe you don't have any, and you just kind of want to use something else, you can just use sugar. The important part is to give it a little bit of balance. If your peanut butter is very, very sweet, do not add additional sugar. In my case, I'm not adding anything else other than peanut butter. There's no really going around the vinegar. Don't use anything, don't use wine vinegar or something like that. Just use cooking vinegar. And of course the paste and the chili is what's going to kind of round things off. So give it a little bit of a taste. Make sure it's kind of where you want to be in terms of spiciness, sweetness, your flavor profile, and you can go from there. In my case, it's not spicy at all. In fact, it's a little bit on the sweet side, and so I'm going to add a little bit more chili flakes here. Go a little bit at a time. and make sure that you get it just right where you want it. And this will be really what brings things together. The garlic will come in strong later, but you definitely want this to be sort of in the range of flavor that you can imagine will be coating some of your stir-fry noodles, and so it's important to get this right. Okay, so we'll go over to the stove and we'll start to cook. All right, so now that we're on this side, we're gonna start to do a little bit of the cooking with the pork. You can see here where if you just do a little bit of a sprinkle, you can even go from this water to this. I've turned this water up in the back to boiling. I'm gonna try to get my timing right so that we have a prepared pot to cook our noodles very fresh as we start to get the meat and the mixture ready for that. So we'll see how we do on timing. Again, with the pork that we're gonna cook, I'm gonna salt it a little bit more here off camera as I mix it with my hands. What we're gonna do for the next 6 minutes or so is cook our pork, brown our pork. And with pork, again, food safety is always very important with us and with you in your kitchen. Make sure that you give enough time for the pork to really cook thoroughly, and there's no shortcuts around that. I'm just gonna get the water, and you can see the burner really red there. I'm just gonna get the water going. We're not gonna use it for at least 10 minutes, so preserve enough water. Just be ready to basically go in with some noodles and bring to a boil. So I have my pork here on the side. You can add any sauce or any spice you want, but I would caution you to not use anything other than salt and pepper, because we have a lot of flavors that are gonna pair up with this guy as we go. And so we have a very good looking pork there. Start to really sizzle right off the bat. And you hear me in the background washing my hands. I like to do that anytime I touch uncooked food, obviously. You want to take your time washing your hands. Don't worry, the pork is not going to burn out from under you. In fact, it's one of the foods that takes the longest to really make sure it's browned it through. You've probably seen me use some thermometers in other videos. I don't necessarily think you always have to do that. If you know kind of what you're looking for in terms of coloration, the size of the pot, the heat of the pot, how much pork, chicken, or anything else that you're cooking with you have. So in this case, we're gonna go to medium to high heat. If you know your stove, you haven't cooked in your stove a lot, it's a great time to discover that. And really what it's about is the times that you are cooking beef where you have to get something brown. It's about getting there quickly, but not burning along the way. And so oil is going to be important in that conversation. If you have a pot that is non-stick surface, it definitely helps. Again, you want to use as much of the pot as possible, and so the pot of your choice and the shape of that pot plays a big role in that. We're gonna let this guy kind of come to its own. In the back, you can see the water steaming. That's exactly where we want to be at this point, because we don't want to get caught with our beef cooking and not ready to ramp up the heat and then take care of our noodles. So we're gonna cook the pork. I would say we have another minute or so of just browning and stirring. We're gonna prepare a little bit here with our garlic and our scallion. It's gonna come in right after that. And we wanna make sure that we're prepping here. You can see where almost everything's brown. There's some little pieces here. So we have about another 30 seconds before these pieces start to really cooperate. And so we're enjoying our time here. You can see the water's just bubbling. That's where we want it. And we're gonna keep it there while this side gets to going. So hardly any pink left. There's a little bit of pieces here and there. Once we get to that point, I like to go for another 2 minutes or so at the same heat, if not a little higher. But you can see here where it cooks pretty fast if you have the right amount of oil and mixture of, or I should say separation of your pork. And I'm gonna salt it a little bit more. The saltiness of the pork, who doesn't like salty pork? Bacon, you know, all the dishes that you come to know with pork typically are salted very well. That saltiness is going to really carry us through. There'll be some garlic to complement. There'll be some sweetness coming in from the sauce and some spiciness from the sauce. Not a lot of salt on the sauce, just a little bit. So the pepper and the salt on the meat itself is really what's going to stick out. Again, pepper is not just for flavoring. There is some spiciness to it. And so be careful that you don't overwhelm your pork with pepper, and then you have your chili flakes, your Schezwan sauce base. And so we really want to make sure this guy is completely cooked. And you can see here where this is just right. And again, that's just on standby because we're going to move quickly once we see the pork at the point we need to join up with our sauce. So what we're going to do is we're going to marry up with our scallions, the scallion pieces I should say, and garlic. Both of these guys, we're going to put this all around. And again, the pork has plenty of moisture to keep cooking at the bottom particularly. What you don't want to do is get to a pan type that dries things out. You want to make sure you have plenty of moisture to carry the mixture. And you'll know the garlic is activated when you can smell it. Obviously, that's a big giveaway. But you'll also see it sort of disappear, and then you'll wonder where did the garlic go? It's still there, and there's some pieces in there, but it sort of gives way. And here we go, 30 seconds in, I can smell it. The scallions are gonna continue to cook and absorb the heat and get really soft. And that's kind of an indicator of what's going on inside the pot. If scallions could talk, they would tell us that they are definitely in the heat. In the bacon world, you have the grease itself become a part of the cooking process. And it's largely true for any pork dish that you don't release the grease from. There's definitely olive oil in there still to be absorbed and evaporated. And you can see we're not really steaming way too much. And so that heat is just right for our meat, for our scallions. And we're gonna let that simmer a little bit. And so what we're gonna do here is let it simmer a little bit. We're gonna prepare our sauce to come in. And we're just gonna relax here for a second and let this just absorb the heat a little bit more, start to crinkle, start to brown. So we're coming in now, and I could definitely smell the pork trying to cook. That guy is ready. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring in the sauce. We're gonna bring in the sauce and join up. And again, remember we were talking about how soupy or how watery, how thick, how thin this is. This absolutely helps in this step, but it's not absolutely critical. What you want to do is you want to make sure that right when you go in, this has been cooking pretty heavily. It's very, very hot and really very quick to cool with the sauce that you just added. And so you don't want that to happen before you get to mix things in, and you can automatically smell all of the ingredients of the sauce, the vinegar, the paste. And when you get it to this point where it's really coated, really turning into little clumps, so to say, you want to make sure that you add a little bit more paste to taste. And got some on my finger, and that's okay. I always like to preview the taste. So we're gonna get this all nice and together. And we're gonna keep going. I lowered the heat a little bit because now we're gonna transition to the other side. And we're really gonna make sure that our beef doesn't get overly dry. And right now you can see there's plenty of moisture in there, but I'm going to add a little bit of water, 1/4 cup at a time. You always want to do that to preserve your ingredients from burning. So that's kind of like a little bit of a time substitute. And so what I'm going to do, you got to kind of anticipate a couple of things here. I'm going to take some noodles, and these noodles cook absolutely faster than pasta. They are not pasta, and they will melt basically right into the water if you're not careful. So you got to make sure that you're paying attention to that, and that you're ready with water to fold these into the pan. And fold and fold. Clock's ticking, and you can see where the water has calmed. And I'm gonna kind of come back with some heat. And these noodles are gonna cook very fast, probably 1 to 2 minutes tops. So we're counting now. It's about 106. So I can call it out, and I can see it on my stove clock. What you want to prepare for is to be able to take these noodles and take them out as soon as they start boiling, like now. You're gonna take them out when they're very tender, so we got probably another 40 seconds. And then we're going to drain them. And we're going to fold them in some cold water and sort of shock them a little bit. So we are ready to go and fold them out. I have my catch-all. And so while these cook, they will not be undercooked. They will be cooled, if you will, but dry as much as we can get them. Turn off our heat in the back. We're going to check them with our hands, make sure they're soft but cooked. And they are. And then we're going to go right into the pan. We're going to make them a little bit crispy. And again, you can't overcook these noodles all that much. You know, so it's very time sensitive. Here's the thing: if you cook them a little bit longer, they're just going to become very soft, very pliable. That's how you know that you're very deep into the cooking process for those noodles. I like to keep them a little bit on the, I don't want to say crunchy side because that's not what it is, but a little bit on the rigid side of things. I want to make sure I use all my paste. Really what we're going to do here is mix things up with the carrots, the noodles, the butter, and we're going to keep stirring and folding and separating, and we're going to kind of distribute the noodles throughout, bring it from the bottom to the top because that's what's the hottest. And our spoon here, our spatula, friendly spatula, is kind of on the side, gonna help us separate. And if you want to picture in your mind sort of 4 sections to this, those are your servings. Split up. And you can see where none of the noodles are breaking. They're definitely cooked, which is a scary short time for these types of noodles. But you're gonna just keep going. And you're gonna make sure everything is really separated, at least once. It's gonna be a little bit sticky. Sauce is very sticky. Remember there's peanut butter in there. There's vinegar to help it thin, but we have really a ton. We're gonna go up in heat, not a lot. And what I'm gonna do now is bring in some water, about 1/4 to 1/2 cup all around. And that's gonna be sort of a steaming effect for what's in here. Once we get to our heating and steaming phase, we're gonna go with our lid. We're gonna really let the heat take care of this. The carrots are gonna be a little crunchy in this dish. We're also gonna top off with peanuts. You can add a little bit more butter if you want a little bit more creaminess and some richness into your noodles. Oop. Not a lot of pepper, just topping it off. And we're gonna just let the pan do some work. And now we have a beautiful mixture of a lot of flavors. Noodles are everybody's favorite on a cold day. If you're watching this video and you're out in a cold area of the world, I definitely recommend some quick noodle dishes, thinner noodle dishes, but with the pork, the seasoning, fighting against the cold is it's a little easier, and a lot of good taste that you get out of it when you use that. So you can see here where there's not a lot of steaming, means our food is still holding most of that heat. The water is seemingly being absorbed by the noodles. We're gonna add a little bit more until I see some steaming. There's nothing trapped underneath. That last step is very important to release the noodle. Moisture is still being sucked up by the noodle, so that means We need a little bit more, and you can see now more steaming, which is what we're looking for. The carrots are gonna need the moisture as well. And so you wanna keep massaging this with your spatula. You could take a little bit of a taste off the side to just sort of make sure that things are where we need them to be. Not gonna say they are, but I like pan-fried noodles and stir-fried to be fried, quote unquote. And so I'm gonna keep going and remix. I do think the sauce needs to spread out a little bit more. You should not see any noodles that are unseparated or clumped with another noodle along the way. Always hard to break up a good conversation. So if noodles are talking to each other, they may have tried to sneak by. So we have to convince them and compel them to let go, find new friends, new noodles to talk to, and that is how we get our dish to be fully immersed in flavors. Noodles are happy. Ingredients are happy to have a purpose in our kitchens, to find their way into our table, and to hopefully be a source of joy for you as you've made another meal for your family and your friends, maybe for yourself. You always gotta love yourself, and so it should be a good source of conversation and something to fill you up, either give you energy to go tackle the rest of the day. Maybe you already did that earlier today and you want to unwind, and this can maybe transition you as the carbs get into you. I get a little sleepy, so make sure you are prepped for that, because when you eat this, you will definitely feel a little bit of nap time coming on. If it's later in the afternoon or if it's in the evening, I promise you that's where it's going to be. So I'm going to leave this as it is. I'm going to turn down the heat to low, and then what I plan to do is cover this for about 4 minutes, and then right after it's done, you can see some smoke coming up. Once the lid gets really all of that moisture collected, you will know that it is ready to serve. You're gonna use your tongs and bring out a plate and top with peanuts, maybe some of those scallions that we left over, and then you can enjoy. Guys, so I just had to come back and show you, when you do make your first serving, if you're not ready to serve the whole pot, your whole family's not there yet, or you're gonna save some for later, make sure that you re-spread this out, and then you can finish off the same way you would serve it eventually. Put the scallions on top, put the peanuts on top. If you wanted to leave it for a second meal later, this is the perfect way to do it. Just turn off the heat and cover it up, and it'll keep a lot of that moisture. And the other thing is that if you let this dish sit for a little bit before you bite into it, it absolutely brings things together. So I highly recommend you do that. I just took a taste of mine, and I have to say, it is a great dish. Super fast. Noodles cook super fast, so it's really just about the base. And I hope you enjoyed this video and you've learned a little bit more. Happy to share this with you, and I wish I could cook for all of you, but I can't. So the best thing I can do from that is just to share with you what I cook for myself, and hopefully you take a stab at it and then you tell me how it was. Thanks.